for each of them to share a few remarks with us today as we get started. And first up, I would like to invite Mark Neely, who's Embraer's VP of Sales and Marketing for the Americas, to the stage. I'll introduce Mark. He is the Vice President of Commercial Aviation for the Americas. Mark leads his team's efforts of connecting people in the Americas through accessible and affordable air travel. With over 30 years of experience, he's been with Embraer for the last 11 years. And while at Embraer, he also served as a regional vice president of sales in North America, responsible for launch orders of the E-jets in the US and Canada. His previous experience includes former OEMs British Aerospace, Fairchild Dornier, ATR, and Continental Airlines. Please join me in welcoming Mark Neely to the stage.
Well, good morning. It's so great to be, in many ways, for me, back home. I used to live in this area, and so I go back far enough, as Dan was listing off the companies there, the fact that we have sort of going back to the future in many ways in terms of the regional aviation piece, because I think of how the RAA used to be, and we would continually have the events in DC. And that's now we're coming back into it. And I think we're into this brave new world that we are here in terms of what the industry is, what its importance is to not just the aviation piece, but also in terms of the economy here, but the economy worldwide. So I think it's important that we sort of really acknowledge the obvious challenges that we've all been through here, and where we sit with the unknowns that are in our industry. But think about it in the context of where we're going and how we are rebuilding this whole transportation system. I think it's an important moment for us to think about it. We know there are the sort of inherent issues that were there before the pandemic, but now we see them in a much more accelerated manner that we have that in terms of the pandemic. And I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping, because just we had the presentation, but that may be for tomorrow, as I understand it. So that, you know, we'll deal with that then, if that's the way, because we're looking at it differently, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because I didn't see it up here, so I'm just making sure I'm not a housekeeping piece.
Sorry,
there we go. Okay, thank you. Sorry. So with that,
okay,
I didn't see it there, so apologies for that. So again, reconnecting the world. So if we look, and there's no clicker, so we go to the next slide. If we look at where we have been as an industry, and the fact that we are fortunate here in the U.S. and North America to see that we are rebounding faster than anywhere else because of our strong domestic market, because of just the natural construction of the aviation sector here in the U.S. So it's certainly been rewarding to see that the traffic and business has come back in a meaningful way here. Next slide, please. If we look at it, particularly for our segment in terms of the large dual class fleet in the U.S., it is the first to be back in business, as it were, in a truly meaningful way here, with a large percent of the fleet now fully back up and flying, which is great to see, because it's enabling us to connect these communities that are so important to all of our partners, and getting passengers to where they want to be. Next slide, please. Goes without saying that the business traffic has been the most difficult in terms of seeing where it has been and where it is going. The reality, though, is, next please, that you'll see that while we talk about the large percentage of the business that has come back, what is really rewarding to see from our perspective is the fact that regional jets are playing such a large role in keeping that frequency, which is so important for the business traveler in terms of generating the connectivity they want to have in terms of doing what they need to do as we all come back out of the pandemic. I think we understand that the business is changing and will change. Thank you very much. And we certainly see that that's where regional aviation has played such an important part of that. And we have that. So one of the things, you know, we talked about Zoom calls, and hello to my friend Rick, who's on the Zoom call, because we've certainly have learned the new way of doing business and seen how that has evolved. One of the things that is clear is that the way people are doing things has changed from the pandemic, right? We all lived in the world of you're on mute, you know, click your button. But more importantly, I think what was already happening for a lot of industries has really accelerated, obviously, in terms of the movement out of large metro areas, maybe differently than some of us have been thinking about it, in terms of the fact that it's not just totally leaving these cities completely and going elsewhere, although, you know, from this graph, you can see that has certainly been the case in many ways, but also moving around differently in terms of the large metro areas, and how people are interacting with those areas, right? And so this is where regional aviation can really present itself, obviously, as the solution to a lot of these things, because as we segregate out where people are living and where they're working from, it's important that they still have that connectivity piece in terms of the business. So one of the things that is important to think about is the fact that we get so focused on upgauging and everything else in the industry in terms of talking about what aircraft is in the marketplace. And this is not a big product pick. It's really to generate some thought in terms of the overall space. But as we look at the US market, North American market, you see that the 50-seater really maintains a strong presence and its importance in keeping people connected. And even more so as we look at what is going on as people do change where they're working from and where they need to go. The other piece of that, obviously, as we well know, and everybody in this room is intimately aware of, is that there is an issue with pilot supply, and it's beyond pilot supply, it's labor supply. But this is the Oliver Wyman chart, which demonstrates very clearly that we had the issue going into the pandemic because of decisions and how we handled getting through the pandemic. We had basically this bubble. But that bubble is bursting, and I would probably argue that the blue line in terms of the optimism in 2021 is just that, a bit of optimism as we look at where we're going on the trend here. Again, I know that the RAA is keen on this issue, and as all of its members are. The view is that this is not just an issue for us. This is an issue for the communities that we serve, and the customers that use those airports in order to get to where they need to get to. So if we sort of look at it a little bit more holistically, we know that there's the change in work habits. We also know there's the issue in terms of the 50-seat product and its lifespan, and also in terms of pilots, but also the infrastructure to support that, the training, the certification, all of those issues come into play as it relates to that. So again, as I say, this becomes an economic argument in terms of what's affecting communities and their ability to plug into this global marketplace. If we look at from our perspective in terms of Embraer, from the OEM perspective, there are things that we see that maybe are ways to address this in some meaningful ways. One way we see that is, how do you replace a 50-seater since it's here to stay? And we know that there's going to be constraints that say that 50-seater has to remain an important part of that air transportation system. So for us, one of the solutions is what we are calling the NGTP, which is a clean sheet design in terms of a family of airplanes, basically built around 70, 90 seats, but with a view that we can derive a 50-seater that really meets the demands of the marketplace. Because one of the things that is also key from the major partners here is having that jet dual class, 3-class product in all segments of what they do. So with this product, with a rear propulsion system, with a cabin that's basically the 175, so it's a complete experience of the 175 with the turboprop economics and cost and efficiencies to the point of being much more friendly in environment and fuel and all of those things that are very important as we drive out of this pandemic as well. That's a key component to what we can bring to the table. I think it's important, though, that we look at it a bit more holistically, and we see it too in terms of the fact that the remote doesn't work, but that's okay. There we go. That it's looking at the holistic nature of this business. And so while the turboprop is a end of this decade technology that we think provides real value, we think it's important as we have come together here in person again to start thinking about how we look at the industry in terms of the integration of the different technologies, and as I said, the training, all the issues that affect so many of us, because it's not just one party's issue to deal with. It's all of us to have to work together to find a way to keep driving this industry forward in a way that we keep contributing the way that we have for so many years in terms of the economic engine that is in the North America and in the U.S. in particular. So again, it's great to be here. It's great to have a chance to talk to everyone in person. We look forward to being a partner in this process and looking to find those solutions that keep our industry growing. So thank you very much.